Hey, so Nance, thank you for being here. I actually want to know why you say yes to having this conversation with me, and what would you like to achieve at the end of the conversation?
I think it's really interesting to hear different people's journeys about how they came to art or whatever they've done, because I think that can be inspiring for other people. They may see something in themselves that they recognize, or they may just be interested as being able to take a different route.
So you plan to share your story.
Yes,
Yeah,
hopefully, if you're willing to understand where I've come from and how my journey's brought me here today, talking
great.
to you.
Great for being willing to be an inspiration for whoever out there listening.
Yeah.
And so let me share a bit about why I do this podcast. And first, I believe that artists are the arts. And I've been interviewing artists for more than a year. And I see that there is a need for longer form. So that's why we created this podcast. And today, the intention is to know why you do what you do and also explore the unique opportunities that we have in Hong Kong. And also to understand, in your view, what will be the opportunity here that like we can impact Hong Kong to make Hong Kong the place for artists or creatives to thrive.
Mm.
So shall we
Sounds
start?
good. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So Nance, who are you? How would you introduce yourself?
I'm an artist and a digital designer. Um, my background was I was an art director back in the UK, and then through various circumstances, I came over to Hong Kong. And then I entered the digital side of design. And alongside that, again, through circumstances in Hong Kong, I then explored the art expression side of my life, if you like. And so they kind of worked parallel together. So I have my full-time job, and then I was doing the art on the side, just as a way of expressing how I was feeling and also my experiences. And then in 2023, I was laid off from the startup I was working with, and that's when I flipped over to full-time art. I still do a little bit of digital design on the side, but the main focus is now on the art and taking that further.
Right. And so would you say that you're like a Hong Kong homebrew artist? Did you start your artist journey
Yes,
here?
yes, I would say certainly this style of art has definitely been born in Hong Kong. Prior to that, in the UK, I used to do dog portraits and dabbled around in different styles of art, but it's not something that I really focused on back then. It was more, I would say, more a hobby. But then um, I really felt that this was something I wanted to express, this journey of life. And it just started to really get deep rooted in me. And I just feel compelled to get that out and share it with people. So yes, through events in Hong Kong, I, it was a catalyst for this art.
Mm. And where do you put yourself in the journey of being an artist? Like in the way you express it, you have definitely creative like experience in creating like creativity.
Mm.
And I also get a sense of newness and adventure, like something that you like exploring.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, art is all about experimenting, exploring, and pushing your ideas forward. Um, yes, creativity has always been part of my life. This, since I've been in Hong Kong and since I've been creating this art, it's definitely been more of a focus. And I feel like it's a conversation I'm trying to have with the viewer about different aspects of art. So, yeah.
So sounds like you definitely think you're creative.
Yeah.
And when did you decided that, oh, I am creative? And what was that experience like?
I think creativity is just like part of your existence. It's like breathing. I don't think um I don't think there's a point where I could say I've become creative. I think it's an innate sense of curiosity. So one of the things I think in your day-to-day life, as you're going around and you're observing life and you're observing the world around you, you have this fascination. Why is this a certain way? Look at that natural structure. You look at the structure of a building and look at the beauty of it. Um, Actually, when I was back in the UK, I did a photography kind of oh, what would you call a project? 365 days a year. Took a photograph every day, and it was at that time because I wanted to understand what what angle of photography did I like. So it's how you see the world and how you see the beauty in the world, and it's also how you see how people relate to each other and the stories they tell and the experiences that you share. So there, I think creativity is all of that. I don't think so. For me, it's just part of my being. It's
Mm.
like breathing.
It must go way back since you were a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I've always had a good imagination for creating things. I spoke to my mom. Oh, it was a while back, but I spoke to my mom. She said, You make things," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I do. I just keep creating things, and I like using my hands. I like building things. I like transforming things that maybe are like recycling, and using things for different purposes."
Mm.
So I think I just have a maybe just a different way of thinking about things. So there was this one time when in my new when I bought my first house, I decided I was going to have a rose arch on the inside because then I thought I can put some shelves on it. So something that was designed for the garden, I actually brought into the house and then made it into something else. So that's creativity just
Mm.
lends itself to all kinds of I guess problem solving.
Right. I can hear you in the background saying why and why not. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bring me back to the earliest memory that you had, like you see yourself creating something or you had with art.
I think just being around my mum has been that inspiration because so she came from Hungary. Um, both my parents came from Hungary, and then she went to college in the UK and studied fashion design, and that was her dream. So she's always been very creative, and so growing up, I was surrounded by material and patterns and dresses and all that kind of stuff. And my mum used to say when she was going to the haberdashery, I would go around touching the material, going, that feels nice." So I've always seen her um, have this creativity and this imagination for outfits and just transforming ideas into sketches into actual things that exist. So um, I, I mean, what did I draw? I can't really remember what exactly I drew, but I always had a pen and pencil around.
Since you were really kid, like really
Yeah,
young.
yeah,
Right? I know I'm trying to paint that picture, like the little Nance with the pen and paper with her mom.
yeah.
Right?
Well, she often had me cutting out. She had this net with flowers, and she had me cutting them out. So got me involved.
Mm,
And whenever I said I was bored, she always found something for me to do.
yeah, and I can get a sense of hands-on,
Mm,
feeling it, doing it, manipulate the materials.
yes,
Right?
yes.
That's how you grow up. Would you say your mom is the person who inspired you early on in life?
Definitely, definitely, her creativity definitely inspired me.
Tell me a bit more about your mom and how she inspired you.
Well, I think, coming from Hungary and then coming to the UK, learning a new language. She was newly married to my dad. They actually grew up in the same street, so they knew each other from when they were a kid. And yeah, it's a bold move. It's a bold move to move to another country, and I actually now have experienced that coming to Hong Kong as well. So I can really now appreciate their journey. And I think it's just that drive, where she wanted to go to college, she wanted to do this fashion design. She had to speak English to do the college course, but she's done so many things. Like, she hasn't just stuck to fashion. She learned how to become a milliner. She's done jewelry design. She's 80. Oh, I've got to get this right, otherwise she'll come and tell me off. She's 84. No, actually, she's 82 this year. And she's still making jewelry, making bracelets and necklace earrings and things like that. So it's just, I think having that in the family just encourages me to keep going.
She sounds like someone who has so much life, is full of life
Yes,
and curiosity,
yes.
and not afraid to make it happen.
No, and dad was a real support in that. He was a breadwinner. He had the steady job and looked after the family, and so that enabled her to live out her dream.
Mm. Mm. And thanks for sharing that and painting that picture. And I
Yeah,
get to understand like what got you
yeah.
to be like this. Right? Great. So why are you working on these days?
Well, so I've been working predominantly 2D on canvas, and if I explain a little bit about the art is layered. Okay, so usually the base layer, I will use a palette knife or brush strokes, and that kind of sets the tone of it. It's like the environment we live in. And so there are certain things in the environment we live in that we can't change. Politics, economy, things like that. So when we live our life, it's kind of running over the surface of that. So for me, it's important. It's sometimes subtle. In the background, you'll just see some subtle marks, but they're just a nod to the unevenness of life, if you like. And so what I wanted to do is exaggerate this, and I mentioned earlier about experimenting. So one of the things was I wanted to look at what if I really exaggerated that surface as to the environment, the country, wherever we live, and how that impacts our life. So this is just an experimental piece, but on the surface, when you look at it at a certain height, it should look 2D. But then when you move it around, you can see the lines actually start to look distorted. The journey looks a little bit more complicated. And as you know, with my work, the lines represent the journey we take. And then we have the twists and turns in there that suggest that something had to change. Maybe it's an opportunity, maybe it's a challenge, but something's shifted, something's changed. And so now what I wanted to do is just add this extra dimension, and there's already a 3D dimension to it. So sorry, but I'm trying to mess with your head. Because I think life is just not always as it appears, especially with social media, what people put on there. It always seems perfect, nice, and people are going through their own issues, problems, challenges, and it's an acknowledgement of that.
Hmm.
But it also makes life interesting, and I think it makes people's stories interesting.
And it does. And I love that idea of messing people's head. Actually, um, and yes, like life isn't like the way it seems, and sometimes it's the surprise is the unpredictability, right? They're like the miracles in life.
Yeah.
And I do get that. Like I do love optical art,
Mm,
and it kind of affects the way the being of us. It's like kind of, oh my God, right? Like get you dizzy,
yeah.
and also get when I look at the optical art, I usually get drawn into it and maybe also interacted. Of course, the piece might not be moving, but I'll be like, ooh, right? Yeah, I love that idea.
I just love it when you can invite someone in. So it's almost like don't take things at face value. Get curious.
Mm.
Take a deeper look. Go shift your perspective. And there's a couple of pieces that I've done what encourage people to walk around because from a distance they appear one thing, and then when you get closer you see the detail and it kind of reveals itself. And that's very much like when we meet someone. We might meet someone for the first time and we do small talk, and so we don't really understand each other's lives. But then when we start to share more stories, then we really start to uncover what makes that person who they are, and why they've become that way.
Would you say that is like one of the purposes of your art, like the overarching theme of it?
I really want to, I feel like I'm trying to have a conversation with people through art. And it's my observations of the world as we know it and the situations that we encounter. Maybe it's stories that appear on the news, but it's trying to work out, as humans, how do we navigate life? And so that I just look at all these different aspects. So, for instance, this piece here, you can see there's iridescent paint on the lines. Um, and so it's got a mystical kind of look to it, but it's about transformation. And if you think, as you've gone through your life and different decades, you change, you shift, you evolve. And I think there's something really lovely about that.
Mm.
That's part of our journey. And so, just I want the art to also provoke some thought for the viewer to kind of go back into their life and see how far they've come, what they've achieved,
Mm.
maybe some of those hardships that they've overcome. But I always think that sometimes things have to happen to get you to the next step or to teach you how to handle the next step. You have to learn lessons along the way. And I think there's really something nice about that. And I think it's almost comforting, as in, if you're going through um, some challenges at the moment, it doesn't feel good and you sometimes can lose your way. But I think it's just having the confidence to trust the process, that you will move on, new things will happen, and maybe there's something in that challenge that prepares you for the next stage of your journey. So the art really is kind of getting people to reflect on their own lives, but also start a conversation as well.
Thank you for listening this far. And if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. It will really make a difference to the artist, and it might even help us to get more funding. You know what I hear is faith. Have faith.
Yes.
Like faith is to me is like everything's going to go be all right, and also when you look back, you're going to appreciate what you have done. That is what I hear from the way you describe.
Yeah, I like to say this. A lot of things had to go right and a few things had to go wrong for us to have this conversation. So if you think about that, it's the world's not smooth. We all face our challenges, but it's meant that we have met,
Mm.
and we're having this conversation now, which is wonderful.
This is so clear who you are, and it reflects in the way you work and the twist and turn and the connection and the journey in life.
Connection's a very good word. Yes, because we are all connected, and especially here in Hong Kong, more so because it's so compact and the dense population. It's you meet so many interesting people here. And so that's again, that also informs some of that art and the inspiration from other people's
Mm.
stories of what they've achieved here.
Right. We are going to talk a bit about that. Is actually, but before we go to talk about Hong Kong and the city that we live in, I actually want to know what you're working on next. I know you're doing experiments.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit about what's next for you?
So at the moment, I'm just going through a moving studio. So I'm going to be in a part of town called Chuk, and this is an up and coming art hub. So there's a lot of major galleries that have just moved down there. So Death Sarth, Rossi and Rossi, um, Whitestone Gallery, and a few more to mention. And there's young galleries coming up, Podium, just trying to think, the Blind Spot Gallery, so there's a lot of art inspiration down there, and I'm really excited about being amongst that, being able to be inspired by other artists and also just exchange ideas. The studio spaces, there's a few artists that I know already down there, so it's not going to feel as isolated. So some of us like to work on our own, but it's also nice to connect and share ideas as well and be able to do that. So yes, it's a little bit stressful at the moment with the move, but once that's done, I'm very excited to be working bigger, and really push this to the next level. There's a million ideas in my head, so I've just kind of got to flick through my book of inspiration. Whenever I get ideas, I write it down and just see where that goes. But actually, definitely working on some bigger pieces, and certainly because I've had this break of not creating art, can't wait to get back and get the paints and paintbrushes out.
I want to congratulate you moving to a bigger space.
Yes,
And it sounds like you're very excited to be that part of the town and working closely with other artists and being so close to other galleries.
yes, absolutely.
And and do you have a ultimate project as an artist?
I don't think there's an ultimate project. I think there's just ongoing projects. But there is something that I'm feeling my way around, which is creating multiple art pieces that are connected, that people can buy, and they can connect with new people, and also have it as a representation of art that connects them, say, to their friends or family. So, not, I mean, you may use the term modular art, but it's not quite like that. But I just love this idea of connecting. And one of the things that I love is actually meeting someone you don't know yet. So, through art. So, if you buy a piece of art, the next piece, when that's sold, then I would love to connect people whose pieces of art connect. So I'm still working on this, and I'd love it to be large scale as well. Um, but yeah, that's definitely in the works.
That's- Like when you're sharing that, I in my mind I was thinking about that. Um, this is Mischief, like that studio, that brand,
Okay.
bought a Damien Hirst
Uh-huh.
painting with like multiple dots, that
Yes.
one, and I cut it into multiple pieces and sell it.
Yes.
And it's kind of like in a way it connects those people, the collectors,
Yes.
right?
Yes. But the lines would definitely be connected, but what I want them is on their own canvases.
Hmm.
So they all come together, but then they can all find their own homes, but they're still connected. I just think it's a lovely concept.
Yes. And I also see like in the future it could be the collectors would come together, find the
Yeah.
other piece, have a, and
Yeah.
maybe feel it on a football field.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Ah, lovely. So, one of the intention that we have this podcast is to talk about Hong Kong,
Mm.
to explore what make it unique here and what we can do to make this place the place to be for artists and creative, right? So, what unique opportunities do you see in Hong Kong?
I think, again, I touched on it earlier, is there are so many people of different walks of life that are so connected here. You have access to CEOs, whereas if you were, or founders of companies and gallery owners and curators, there's your paths can cross with these people. Whereas if you're like, if you go back to the UK, it's much harder to get in connection with these people. So there's always somebody knows somebody knows somebody. And I think that you could definitely, or we could definitely harness that connection, that network, and create those opportunities. And I think I always felt like Hong Kong's where if you have a dream to do something, it can happen. You just need to be persistent and create the environment and the opportunities. So I think just through the nature of the wide breadth of different people you have here, um, we also have a lot of major galleries here. And also we have the art shows. So we have Affordable Art Fair, Art Central, Art Basel. Um, I think it would be nice if we could have some opportunities where if you're not necessarily with a gallery, that there's opportunities for artists to come together
Mm.
and form their own festival or something. So I think that can happen, but just somewhere, just just create something new.
And do you want to see that happen?
I'd love it to happen. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it should happen in Wong Chuk.
Right. And of course, that could bring us to that questions is like, what do you see is needed and wanted to make Hong Kong the place to be?
Well, I think we've got a WhatsApp group with over 300 plus artists and visual artists, and it just shows the breadth of talent there is here. But I think it's hard for that outlet, for those people to show that talent. So it's creating a platform that enables that to happen, um, and really kind of release it into the world. Because the important thing about art is that if you have an artist in their studio creating art, no one ever really gets to see it until it goes out into the world. It goes on an exhibition or, um, yeah, an exhibition, or ends up in a gallery. But if you don't show your artwork, then people don't know what you're creating. So it's very important for artists to be able to have that kind of platform to share their vision and their ideas.
So a platform to showcase the work and also exchange idea.
Yeah, but I also feel it needs to be in person.
It's need to be in
Yeah. I
person.
mean, we have Instagram and we can see the art on there, but what I've found is when I've done exhibitions, people go, "Oh, this is way, way nicer than when I see it on the screen." And it is.
Yeah.
You really see the details, you see some of that subtle texture which is lost on the screen. So I think the social media platforms have their place, but it really doesn't take the place of seeing art up close and personal.
Mm. And it really like aligned to the message that you've been sharing that you want to have the conversation with the viewer
Yeah.
and they can discover,
Yeah,
interact.
and they can start their own conversations as well. Um it's kind of like a prompt for a
Mm.
conversation. But it's a prompt for a conversation with another human, and really to foster that kind of connection,
Yeah.
real connections.
So like I want to learn a little bit more around challenges, right? So what is like you mentioned about like you would like to have a platform and showcase and um do you see that is the main challenge that you are facing or an artist are facing? Or if you see other challenges that is like more like bigger, more challenging, difficult? And would you like to share that?
I think one of the hardest things for artists is to, for instance, if you want to be with a gallery, is to find a suitable gallery. And again, sometimes connection and networks kind of come into play there. So if you don't have those, it's much harder for you to connect with larger galleries, for example. But I also think that we can, as a group of artists, as a collective, create our own opportunities as well. So maybe we can shift the way art is presented to people, and we don't always have to follow the already well trodden path. You know, we can change and make something different, whatever that looks like.
Mm.
But I do think it is a challenge. You know, like what's the best platform? How do you get your art out there? What environment? And it also depends on the aspirations of each artist. Not everyone wants to be with a very well established gallery. They just want to create art, and there's people that do street art,
Mm.
you know, and they just share their art freely. And I do think that Hong Kong does support that. You've got Hong Kong Walls that encourages that and finds the spaces. So they're really it really depends what the aspirations are for the individual artists, and it comes in many forms.
And I hear diversity.
Yeah.
Like it takes diversity to really make this a very vibrant art scene in
Yeah.
Hong Kong. And when you share that, I also wonder how many artists already know what they like, the direction that they're looking for, or
Mm.
um and that's just a question that comes into my mind. What do you think about that question?
About sorry, say the question again.
Yes, like my my question is like, so it sounds like it takes diversity because there's so many kind of artists,
Mm.
and there's also so many ways
Mm.
to showcase art, and there are even ways that we haven't explored or invented,
Yes.
right? And my question is, how important is it for artists to know their preference or do that kind of self-discovery?
Hmm. I think I think if you have a vision of where you want to be, then it helps you navigate that route to that direction. Because I don't think you ever get to where you envisage going. It's part of the journey. And that might change along the way.
Mm.
Um, so I think if you do strive to, I don't know, for example, like get represented by a major gallery, then I think you have to maybe follow a path that enables that to happen. But if you just want to create art and share it freely, there are other ways of doing it. Um, I think it's just like having an idea of where you want to go. I think
Mm.
if you don't have an idea of where you want to go, then it's really hard
Mm.
to progress, you
Yeah.
know, as in you can keep creating the art, but to what end?
Yeah.
And maybe there isn't an end. Maybe there's some artists that just want to create, and that's also okay. So I think that there's no pressure,
Mm.
you know. Art is different things for different people, you know, whether it's starting a conversation, whether it's expressing emotion or energy, or whether it's observing life and replicating it, you know, on a painting, you know, of what they see in the way they see it. Um, yeah. So I don't think there's any rules. I think
Mm.
it's just, it really depends what your aspirations are.
And one of the intentions of the podcast is to discover what would make an impact for artists. And do you think providing some kind of conversation or coaching to guide that discovery process be helpful for artists?
Yeah, I think having some kind of art mentor or people who are open to that would be very helpful because there are people in different stages of their journey. Sometimes there's people ahead of you, sometimes there's people behind, and I think that keeps you striving to grow and learn more. But also, when you grow and learn more, then you can teach people to come along on that journey as well, or at least share your stories,
Mm.
and then people can take from that what is useful to them, and that might help them um, just in their decision making as to what to do next. So I think we can learn from each other, and I think having again connecting artists to have that sharing and collaboration is really important.
And I'm a strong believer of sharing and discovering. And I believe that if I don't share it, I probably like it's like there's so much that I don't know, right?
Mm,
And it's in my blind spot that I don't see myself.
yes.
And through sharing, you can actually tell me, show me,
Yeah.
right? And I do believe that if we have a space or uh, a community that we can do that for each other,
Yeah.
guiding, asking questions, be curious with each other, or doing workshop, like why we do what we do,
Yeah.
that could be quite fun and impactful.
Yeah, I think yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We can all learn from each other.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
mm, okay. Let's see. How do we make it happen?
I think I think it's about, like connecting people maybe with similarities, you know. So if you are an aspirational street artist and you've got someone who's very figurative, works in oils, then they're very different disciplines. But if you have different experience artists, for instance, in street art, then getting those together to share ideas and move forward, that could work. But then there's also something about the opposites. So, it's like you get a street artist to share ideas with someone who is more traditionally trained. There may be some interesting crossover, some interesting ideas that come up. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have a solution for
Yeah.
this, but I think it's having somewhere, if people want to collaborate and want guidance, it's just getting, people who are open to that. Um, yeah.
Hmm, okay. So, l- is there anything like, is if is there a legacy that you want to leave to people?
I would love this work to stick around and to just be a point of reference um, to guide people, that people in the past and people in the future will have complex lives.
Mm.
Everyone will be navigating their own journey. Things will inevitably happen along that journey. But ultimately, I want people to be compassionate towards each other. Just have a think about, rather than reacting to something, is maybe think what's going on for someone else, and also rather than reacting in ourselves. So if we're going through something that's painful, is maybe to think about what's next as opposed to dwelling on what's painful now. Go through it, sometimes you have to go through the pain, um, but you have to understand it's part of the journey, and then maybe I just think as humans we're always going to have this issue, whether AI is involved or not, whether I don't know, we're flying to the moon.
Mm.
There's still going to be challenges and obstacles and triumphs and wins that we have along the way. And so, I think it's celebrating those, and we will always end up, that path, our paths will cross, but maybe, like I said, some things had to go right and some things had to go wrong for us to be here today.
There's something that never change
Yeah.
is that um, movement of life and that journey that we keep mentioning. And I mean, if we look back and if we have a script and let's see how many times we mention the word journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Nance, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And it takes a person who's so self-aware and authentic to have such a consistent message around journey, around connection, around embracing what happened in life. And through your practice and your sharing, there's a space for compassion and people to get together. And you also have such a strong sense of practice
Mm.
and action. And it's really wonderful to hear that story and understand who you are, even from your parents to your journey to Hong Kong and how you evolved with art. And thank you so much for being here again.
And thank you for inviting me. I've loved the conversation.
Yeah. And I would love to have another conversation with you in the future and
Yes.
see where you will be in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see if that idea of the multiple canvases connected comes out.
If you're an artist, collector, art professional, or government official, has a view of Hong Kong art industry or a story to tell, please go to the link in our bio, fill in the form, and we'll be happy to hear from you.